went to the store to get everything, and I picked out 2 things of Valentine's, and I texted texted my wife.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, she's got a stick.
Can everybody hear me? Nope. Lincoln, do we have some volume back there?
Mine's going now. I just tapped it. Yep, you're good.
Just a reminder, if anyone wants to make a public comment, please turn your paper into Zoe. Does that one work? Does that one? How about now?
Tapped.
He keeps going like this with his mic. Can you just pass down the mic as opposed to the stand? How about now?
Yep.
All right. Just a reminder, if you'd like to make a public comment, you need to turn your sheet in that you grabbed at the door. Good evening. We'd like to thank everyone for attending tonight's board meeting. We will be starting out with a presentation from representatives from Kagan Bank of Potawatomi. This is an informational meeting, not a debate, and there will be no voting on any topic tonight. There should be no interruptions, heckling, yelling, rude comments, or disrespect in any way. There will be time for public comment at the end. You will be able to speak if you choose. At this time, I would like to introduce Chairman Matt Weesaw, Tribal Council Member at Large Rhonda Keene, and their Education Director, Kathy Stone. Again, you will have your opportunity for comments at the end. Please give them the same respect that you expect. Chairman?
Thank you. I guess it's on. Appreciate the invite. Go back a little bit and give the board a little bit of background in case they're not aware. I think this issue started back in 2013 when the Department of Civil Rights, Michigan Department of Civil Rights, filed a complaint with the Department of Education Civil Rights in Washington, D.C. That was shortly after I left 2 terms of serving as a commissioner on the Department of Civil Rights. And I will tell you that none of the 12 federally recognized tribes in the state of Michigan had any clue that that complaint was being filed.
Yes.
I got phone calls from people I knew. I think Larry Crandall was the superintendent at the time. Larry and I are from the same high school. I used to be a water boy for some of the sports that Larry played. Larry called me and said, "What's going on?" I said, "Larry, I have no clue." So as that developed, that complaint got turned down for lack of evidence, but that kind of started the ball rolling. And I can tell you, even at that point, the tribal council, I was back as chair of the council at the time that was done, even our council and many of our citizens were split on that issue. It just had never come up before. So that kind of started the ball rolling. And from that point, it just ceased to gain. Momentum is the wrong word, but recognition that this really was a very detrimental way to go for students. And I will make this comment, and you hear me make it a couple, but it is my firm belief that you as school board members one of your main responsibilities is to create the safest and most positive learning environment for all students, not just a few, but all students. And I think current research will show you that that's not the case when you use, that's being used in many schools around the state and the country. One of my last responsibilities when I thought of retiring back in 2020 was at the direction of Tribal Council, and work that the outreach board had done was to share with Dowagiac and Hartford that research would be forthcoming. Actually, I sent them the research, but contact would be forthcoming from the outreach board to discuss the changes in some of the logos and mascots that the two schools were using. I was a little bit surprised when I came back here about 5 months ago that this issue was still going on. So I've been kind of brought back into this midstream. Understand some things have taken place. Understand that Tribal Council has rescinded the resolution, kind of granting an agreement to use the logo. That research is showing that that really isn't the best way to go. As a result of that and a couple other things, we had a very good meeting, the three of us, with the superintendent and president of the school board, and just shared with them kind of where we were at. And one of the things that I mentioned to them out of the gate was in doing my kind of homework to see what had been going on the last 3 years, 3.5 years since I left. I saw the letter that was authored by the school's attorney in response to Chairwoman Richards on the decision to change the logo. Sincere disappointment more than once. 3 pages of legalese, kids were never mentioned once. It was all our legal position. Our legal position is solid. We stand on solid legal ground. We're going to fight this. I don't know if you said that, but that was the message. You feel so strongly that your legal position is there. You don't care about anything else. It may sound harsh. I don't mean that to sound harsh. But what was very disappointing to me was the lack of concern for even a single child in the school system. One who is being harmed by the ceremonial or the use of ceremonial feathers, regalia, whatever you want to call it. And during that discussion, again, this is about kids. It's only about kids. This is what to worry about. It's not adults. And I've been involved in a number of these issues around the state. I've been invited to participate in a lot of them to give the Native perspective on what this does. The research is there. I wasn't aware of the research back in 2013. But a comment was made, we don't hear anything from the kids. We don't hear anything about this from the kids. And I was a little surprised at that, because my question would be, why would you? Why would you hear from a youngster who's intimidated to say that he's Native American and subject himself to the ridicule and discrimination that might be there? You're not going to hear from those kids. You're going to hear from the ones that are very proud, and that's great. But you're not going to hear the ones that are being negatively impacted, the ones that you guys have the responsibility to serve. So that's why I know it's going to be difficult. It's not been easy for any school to make the change. But I can tell you that every school that has been contacted that I'm aware of has made the change. It's not been easy. I've sat on some committees for different schools. Matter of fact, the last one being Okemos, near where I live. I live in Lansing. They're the Okemos. They were the chieftains, then they were the chiefs. The community agreed it wasn't right, so they put together a committee of students, past students, and adults. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they're now called the Wolves. Wasn't easy. I know a lot of people. My school district is Holt, so we're bordering schools. They're a huge, one of the schools that we participate against the most. And I know it wasn't easy for the adults to make the change, but again, this is not about adults. This is about the kids. This is your main responsibility, to create that learning environment for the kids. So when we had the meeting with the president and the superintendent, again, I thought it was a very good meeting. Appreciated the way in which it was conducted. And we were invited then to come back to a work group held at City Hall. Nobody shows up. Let's just have this work group. I don't know what happened here, but I'll be very honest with you, and we'll deal with it. It's not a problem. But I feel we got played. So very disappointed. Put that behind us, because we're not going to walk away from representing and sticking up for our kids. This is important. It took me, just to give you a little bit of personal experience, born and raised in Bangor. When this issue first came up, I thought, this ain't a bad issue. What's wrong here? Part of that was because in Bangor, we were a known Native American family, and we were almost celebrities. I've got pictures from kindergarten where we're sitting in front of a teepee, November. We all made the little paper headdresses. I've got a book of Tommy and the Indians, a book written about my family. We're taking pictures, and that started the ball. My whole career was a very positive experience being a Native American in Bangor schools. I did not know until later on, back in the 90s, I had 2 classmates who were Pokagon. Never said a word. Never said a word. And I don't know why, because in Bangor it was positive. I can tell you now, being a tribal leader and traveling the state to some of the other federally recognized tribes, and the UP in particular, discrimination still exists. It's sad, it's unfortunate, it shouldn't happen. I don't want to take up a lot of your time. I just wanted to bring the rest of the board kind of up to speed on the conversations that were held here about 4 or 5 weeks ago with the superintendent and the president. We do have, I think Renee sent you out some research material. Pardon me?
Rhonda.
What did I say?
Renee.
Well, that's your other name.
He calls me.
Yeah, I'm terrible at that. I'm getting old. Anyway, Rhonda sent you guys some material. There is very recent research that will show you the negativity that's created by virtue of the logos and the mascots that the schools use. And again, I know it's not going to be easy. I know you will take some heat from the voters. I know you may be, in a position where you like what you're doing and you don't want to get voted out of office. But I will just say again, one of your main responsibilities is to create the safest, best learning environment for the students that are here. All students, not the majority, all students. And if you've got one student who's negatively impacted, you need to look at that. And I'll give you one last example, and then I'll turn the mic over. When we were working with the Pawpaw schools to get rid of the R word, the final vote that the school board took, and they were very indignant, in my opinion, about what they were going to do. Not only did they vote to keep the R word mascot, they actually expanded it. And the next day, Tribal Citizen withdrew from the Pawpaw schools, been there her whole career. She was a senior, transferred to a different school because she couldn't take it anymore. That's the impact this stuff has. Now, granted, I will say the R word was probably much more negative and detrimental than what the logo is behind here. And I know there's been agreements over the years between tribal councils supporting the logo, but I think we all know times change. Nobody thinks any of this was done to be disrespectful. It was all well-intentioned, but times change. And I think research shows that time has changed. So I would just strongly encourage you to put together the process, whatever it may be, to look at coming up with something different. I think you're all aware of the Heritage Fund that the Huron Band has put together, because one of the biggest stumbling blocks, one of the biggest excuses school boards would put to us, we can't afford to make the change. Huron Band took this issue very seriously, renegotiated their compact, and they set aside $500,000 a year to help schools fund the change to make these changes. That's how committed they are. So with that, we are happy to come back and help you again, or help you more with additional research if you need it. But at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do. I think you know it's the right thing to do. And the right thing to do isn't always the easiest thing to do, but I know you can do it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bonjour, Rhonda Keenan Dijnakas. It's Rhonda, not Renee. I tease. I know this is a hard issue, like Chairman Weesaw said, and we're not blaming you for this mascot. We know it happened a long time ago, but we also know that when we know better, we need to do better. And the schools that have changed, they move forward. They never look back, and they're making history, and they have a pride in making that history, and you have the opportunity to make history. You have the opportunity to tell your grandchildren someday, look what I did. And I know people like to say, well, we're honoring you. We don't want forced honor. Well, it's a tradition. Well, there are a lot of traditions that were around not all that long ago that we have since gone away with, and we don't want to bring them back. I know that I gave a lot of information to Greg, and some a real thick packet there, but the one that I want to draw attention to is this specific research, and then also the Michigan Association of School Psychologists and the resolution that they passed against race-based mascots, and how these race-based mascots cause identity confusion and create mental health issues for Native children. But not only are they harmful to Native children, they're harmful to non-Natives, because they keep that stereotype going on what an Indian looks like, or just or what they should look like. I'll say that because, you know, like Matt said, he went to school with a couple of Pokagons. He didn't know, but they kept quiet about it. I have lived all my life, except for 1 year, in this community. And that was between the ages of 6 and 7, so it was a while ago. So I pay my taxes, I live here, I interject with everyone. I don't want to bring anything too personal into it, but I was Jeff Deverona's babysitter when he was 4 years old. Okay, and of course he doesn't remember it, that's okay. So, but I just want you to know, I've been around. I think it was out there that I was an out-of-towner. I'm not. What I'd like to see here, and I hope you will agree, the goal is to get a committee or a task force of students that lead these schools, that are diverse, and have a faculty advisor on there, maybe a mediator between the school and the tribe, and then allow us to tell you our story. We have a representations outreach board that would love to come in and give a presentation so that you know who the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Indians are and where we came from. We have always been here. We are here today, and we will always be here. And we want to be a part of this community. We want to interact with you in a good way, and we want to keep that communication going. But like Chairman Weesaw said, the first step is going to be here, and starting today, I hope that you will consider changing the mascot. I'll pass it on to Kathy Stone.
Hi, I'm Kathy Stone with the Department of Education at the Pokagon Band. One of the things that we do is support our students in their school districts. So we offer services specifically for them, but we also offer things to communities. For example, our third graders, Dowagiac's third graders all participate in a fall, I want to say, culture day It's not culture camp, but it's culture. And students come, learn about what happens on the tribal grounds. They get to see a little mini powwow. So they're getting some education on what's happening right in their backyard. I mean, some people didn't even know. And they will tell you, I didn't know all of this was out here on Sink Road. They had no idea that there is a totally separate government that's being run just down the street. So it starts with education for all of us. I think that's how we see our students that are Native make a difference, and how we grow leaders, and how we respond when they do have issues. Some of them have no issues at school. They feel like they are members of the community, that their voice matters, they're proud of their school, they're proud of the things that they get to do, but there are some that feel disrespected. So our job as educators, you including, is to educate. So we're looking at our students, we're looking at our students' families, we're helping them to prepare for the world that they live in beyond even Dowagiac, because not everybody that grows up here stays here. But a lot of us are around, so we're still here. But so as far as education, you know, we offer our students tutoring services. We want them to do well. You want them to do well. We want to partner with you in that. And sometimes things get in the way, and sometimes it's a mascot, sometimes it's just community understanding of what actually our values are and how you can help to support those and really honor those.
I'd just like to make one more comment if I could. I think in the packet that Rhonda, formerly known as Renee, provided to you is a thesis written by one of your own students, non-native student, that outlines the negativity that she felt when she was in school here. So I would strongly encourage you to read that, because that comes from, kind of one of your own. I believe it was a master's thesis. Catherine Bishop, you may know her. I don't know when she graduated, but we have that in the packets. I think that would be very helpful as you kind of learn a little bit more about this and the harm that it does to the students. So with that, I think we're done with just rehashing what we had talked about in our previous meeting. If you have questions, we're happy to answer some, but other than that, we'll let you get on with your business.
I want to thank you for sharing your information with us. I appreciate it all, other than the statement where you felt like you were played by us. We were honest in our meeting. These is, of our workshops, these are the first public members that have ever showed up to a workshop. And we can thank Facebook for that, I think. That was not us. We are men of our words. Don't hold that against you. It's all right. I don't hold that either. Yeah, I'm going to open this up for questions from the board. I guess I'm going to ask one just so the people in the community here know the research papers that you gave us. Who did the research? I believe it was Western Michigan. It was more just so we can get everybody to know what's going on here.
Yeah, well, the real thick one there, that's the Catherine Bishop thesis. And then there's the resolution from the Michigan Association of School Psychologists. And then the last one, there are 3 authors to that one. I believe 3 or 4 authors to that one. Okay. And that is it's not a long read, but it's a good read, because it separates everything out and how they went about their studies. So I tried to email it, but it kept bouncing back, so that's why I went the old-fashioned ways. So I don't know if you can get copies to your board. That would probably be a really good starting point for sure.
We'll get copies. But do you know, is there a place online where the community members could find these documents?
I could send you the link, and then maybe the link could be posted on your website.
If you could, that way everybody
Yeah,
could
I can
be
do
on the
that.
same page.
Oh, yeah, and quite honestly, yeah, there's lots more. And our representations outreach board, it would be, we could come up with some other ones for you too. I'm sure if you Google it too, God love Google, so.
Yeah. Anybody?
So these packets here that you referred to, Mr. Weasel, in earlier information that was provided, that was just tonight's? We didn't get anything prior to, correct? On what you were referring to? Okay.
No. All right. Anyone? All right, we're going to make copies of all the information you got us. We're going to put it out to the board, and we'll have more dialogue in the future. We'll look into the committee or task force and advisors, and we'll communicate on more on this. We appreciate you coming out tonight. Excellent. Thank you. We're going to move on to our normal discussion items. We've got a few people with public comment. You're all welcome to stay. Just want to let you know that we're going to cover a couple items before we get to the public comment.
Okay, so I'm going to try and work through our regular agenda items here as quickly as I can, knowing that we have a handful of people here, about 7 or 8 folks that have submitted paperwork for public comment here at the end, so we want to save time for those folks to say and share with us what they would like. I know Chairman Weesaw and Mrs. Keene and Mrs. Stone left, but this is being recorded and streamed, so we will be able to share those public comments with everybody in attendance tonight, even if they are not present, okay? So I just share that with you. So I'm just going to run through my agenda here as quickly as possible so we can save that last handful of time for public comment here tonight. First item of discussion, just an update. So you're aware, public, we started these board workshop information sessions for the purpose of just information. The board had asked for more regular and consistent updates, and so that's how these came about this year. And so we've been taking one Monday each month leading up to board meetings for me to just give them the ins and outs and the knows of what's happening district-wide with regards to finances, academics, our facilities, athletics, policy, HR, and then other things and ongoing in the district. So that's what I'm going to run through here real quick. So this won't be a synopsis of the entire year, just kind of over the last 3-4 weeks or so of what's been going on. So first thing, board, I'll share with you, budget revisions are coming from Stacy. We hope to have that in your board packet by Wednesday next week when you receive that, so you can see the mid-year budget revisions. So she's working on that. We'll have that out to you. The idea of you receiving that on Tuesday, Wednesday, so that you can look through that budget amendment and those revisions, and then have any questions that you might have ready for Stacy. You can submit those to Rob, and he can get those to us, or we can go through a handful of those at the regular board meeting next Monday night as well. So budget revision update coming for the next board meeting this week. The 3% MIPSers reimbursement update, so that's that money we've been hoping that we would be getting back from the state as a reimbursement to several of our educators who had started in education prior to the 2013 school year. And so the fully funded health insurance for the retirees is fully funded at this time, and so we're paying for something as educators that we no longer need to be paying for. So that's coming out of several of our educators' pockets. That 3% should be coming back. We've been talking about this all year. We're finally hearing word that 3% first payment of that reimbursement will come in our February state aid payment. So as soon as we receive that, Stacy's been working on a plan for that. We'll get that back out to our employees as fast as we can. We don't want to hold that money. We don't want to keep that from them. That's their money, so we want to get it to them as quick as we can. The thought is that the state aid payment that comes for this as a reimbursement won't come as a cover it all in one payment, that they're going to spread this out over 3 or 4 payments. So our plan is to take what they send us and we're going to pay out quarterly. So for 3 months at a time, basically what employees have been paying in. So we're hoping to pay this out over the over four quarters here as we start to receive the money. Okay. So that's a nice little prop or good thing going for our educators and getting this money back to them and putting it in their pockets where it belongs. Then I just update you on the governor's budget projections. Revenues for this school year have been good for the past year in the state of Michigan, and so projections for next year are looking solid. The governor just came out with her budget and her proposal. She is estimating and asking for an increase per pupil funding of $392, which would be great for us. That would get our student per pupil funding up to $10,000 per student in our state, and help us alleviate some of our, obviously, expenditures. So we just worked through the recent 3-year teacher contract, and we knew we were going to take a small hit with our budget moving into this year and the next couple years, but this increase could offset that, be a nice addition to next year's budget proposal. So as the governor comes out with their budget projections, the next thing is it goes to the House, goes to the Senate. They negotiate back and forth. We probably won't get what she's projecting, but somewhere in that neighborhood. So we are definitely hoping and thinking that we will get an increase in per pupil funding for next year, but just how much yet to be determined. So good news coming from the budget projections and the governor. That's it for finances. Academics, curriculum, just quick update. We spent that January 20th PD day in the district, and a lot of that day was spent with our elementary teachers looking at the different options for our English curriculum. We had vendors come in. Dr. Dunn had been setting that up and working with our vendors and establishing the different K-5 English curriculums that we were looking at. Some of the teachers are piloting that out in the elementary buildings right now. So I was excited to hear from all the vendors and all the different pros and cons in each one of the English curriculums that were presented. So we're excited about moving forward and continuing to work towards a set curriculum for our K through 5 English curriculum, and that will be continuous work here throughout the spring, idea of having something in place before we leave for the summer, and then starting with that K-5 English curriculum in the fall. Facilities, not a lot to report on facilities other than we've been using a lot of snow melt and salt on our walkways and parking lots and doing some snow removal. Just would tell you that we have struggled here over the last few days with sickness and illness in the district. Students, staff, it's going around, not only in our school district, but all over Southwest Michigan. So it was maybe just in time that we had the ice snow day last Thursday and could take a break and get everybody's germs out of here for a day for the maintenance custodial staff to do a little additional cleaning. So that was maybe just in the nick of time that we had that day off last week just to give everybody a day away. So we have used 5 snow days at this point this year. We get 6 built into our student and calendar schedule, so we're hoping for no more at this time. I know the students don't want to hear that, but it's kind of parents, maybe you're cheering for that because you don't want them at home either during those days. I get that. But we're always going to take safety into consideration when we're making those calls and deciding whether it's okay for students to be transported, bus for you to be out transporting your students, and for our drivers, our teenage drivers out there on the roads during these days. So we're getting close to the end of the winter season, so hopefully we won't have to have any more snow days at this time. Athletics, as I informed you before, we've had an ongoing conversation for the last year with the Lakeland Conference and Benton Harbor schools. Benton Harbor was given a plan of improvement in the December 2023. The issues, again, that we were having with Benton Harbor schools and their athletic teams was that outside of football, boys and girls basketball, they couldn't field competitive teams in a majority of their sports. So the unfortunate thing was that Buchanan, Bering Springs, us, and Brandywine, the 4 other members of the Lakeland Conference, would schedule Benton Harbor in tennis and soccer and baseball and track and all the other sports, but they could never field a team. And so it ended up being an empty date for all the other schools in the conference. So in 2023, that winter, they were told you need to get your numbers up and get more competition, competitive teams. So for the last year, they were provided that opportunity. They were unable to do that, and so the Board of Governors came together in the Lakeland Conference and decided to send a letter to Benton Harbor schools, area schools, removing them from the Lakeland Conference. Benton Harbor appealed that decision, and so we went last week and a half ago, as a school district representation, Principal Millen from the high school, Brett Nate, athletic director, and myself. Every school had the principal, the AD, and their superintendent present, and we listened to the appeal from Benton Harbor area schools, and it was a unanimous vote that they were not going to be able to make the immediate needs or changes to the programs that were necessary in order to stay within the conference. So the Board of Governors of the Lakeland Conference decided to move forward, and Benton Harbor has been removed at the end of this school year from the Lakeland Conference at this time. That decision was made, and they were provided the opportunity that if they were to increase numbers in participation, to reapply to join the conference if they could get athletic teams back out for a lot of the other sports that they don't currently have going. And so that's the challenge they've been presented with. Their new athletic director and superintendent are aware of that, so hopefully they'll be able to make those changes and we'll be able to welcome them back into the Lakeland Conference. District wrestling updates, exciting weekend or week around here in Dowagiac. Last Wednesday was the boys district team event for the 8th straight year. The Dowagiac boys wrestling team won the district championship, so that's 8 straight years now, and we'll be going on this week to compete in regionals. This past weekend, they also had the individual. We hosted the individual, so we had 4 boys wrestlers qualify, 1 district champion, and then 3 others qualify for regionals, so they'll be participating, I believe, next weekend in regionals. And then we had 1 young lady who also qualified and will be moving out of districts into regional competition next weekend as well. So a great week for Dowagiac wrestling and our athletic programs. And we hosted, and quite an achievement, if you had an opportunity to see or be around, Wednesday's team event this weekend was a complete zoo, organized chaos, I would call it, at Dowagiac High School with the individual wrestling district event as well. So both Saturday and Sunday. So shout out to Mr. Nate, our athletic director, and our high school admin team, Mrs. Millen, Mr. Sperling, for hosting those events and giving up their entire weekend for opportunities for students and kids. So it was great to see. Policy update, Title IX policies. Remember the Title IX policies we had on the anti-discrimination stuff that we were working through at the beginning of the year? All of that has been rebutted or taken back. All right, so that 2024 policy that was put in place has now been deemed unlawful. And so the reason why we kept the 2020 policy in our current board policies was this was anticipated that it could potentially happen, and it did happen. So we will just be going back and working with our Title IX policy that we had in place in the 2020. And so that's the current policy that exists in board policy and that we will be utilizing. So just an update on that, that the one that we had voted in to Neola policy and our board policies has just become deemed unlawful by a judge, and so everybody has moved this way nationally now with this policy until further notice. So that's where we're at with that one. Executive orders. I think this is something that has come about recently that you should be aware of. There was some concerns with some of the things that were going on at the national level with the current administration executive orders that were being placed out. What does that mean to our school district? So the ICE and immigration officials and the potential of them coming to our school district, going to our school buildings, yes, that is real. And so as we talked about that as school districts and started to have those conversations around our state, what's the best practice and policy in the event something like that happened? And so we have put a protocol in place with the guidance of the superintendents around the state as well as attorneys around the state to help guide us in the event they do come to campus. Essentially, what happens with that is if they were to show up, our building leaders have been informed that to to take their identification, make sure that we know who they are, and then send them to me, right? So I'll become the person who deals with that if they were to show up here on school campus or come to our building. So we would have them come down to central office, and I would manage it from that location with them, trying to keep the distractions away from our students and from our school buildings so that I can manage that with the kids just doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that is to be at school and to be learning. Our Great Start Readiness Program, so that's our pre-K program. That was a discussion topic as well because there were some federal grants that were eliminated that would impact early childhood learning. But GSRP is not a federally funded program, it's a state-funded program. So there was concerns when we woke up that morning hearing about these federal programs being cut. And so we were getting calls from our pre-K folks wondering, do we still show up today? Yes. So nothing has changed with our Great Start Readiness Program because it's state-funded, not federally funded. So we move forward with that. Okay, so those are policy updates. HR, I am happy to announce, and maybe we could get a roaring applause from the crowd here tonight because they're just so excited to be here, that we have a full transportation department now, 3 new bus drivers driving for us. Yes. Maybe my biggest challenge all year is how do we fulfill these roles at the bus department. So hopefully you won't get any more of those emails or phone calls about us having to cancel a route or that we're running late. We have 3 new drivers running their own routes currently. We have 2 more in training that will be filling flex positions for us as full-time drivers as well. So excited that we're fully staffed at the transportation department in a much better position than we were mid-year as you started to see some of those yard signs come out and some of our social media posts as we were recruiting. So one other thing is a topic of discussion I'd like to bring to your attention, board, is our academic top 10 dinner. This is something that was held last year on a Monday night prior to the board meeting. As I was working through the process of becoming the new superintendent here, I was visiting one of your baseball softball games last spring, and I saw the interactions taking place last year during this time where there were rescheduled spring events because of the rain and the weather, and one or two of the events was being rescheduled for the academic top 10 dinner night, and so there were going to be kids that were going to have conflicts and not be able to be there. So my idea and my proposal to you is to move that academic top 10 dinner to a Sunday evening with no conflicts on that evening. So then we would not have to worry about anything being rescheduled or any competitions that would conflict with the students' ability to be at the top 10 dinner. So all top 10 academic performers could be there along with their families. It also takes the workload off of our catering and in-house Sodexo kitchen supervisor, Deb Cahill, because she would not have to cater the event. We could move back down to a local restaurant on a Sunday evening that we know would be open on that evening as opposed to trying to provide that meal and that dinner in-house. So something that I would like you to think about, and then we can talk further about that. Spring Count Day is this Wednesday. So building leaders are putting together some incentives. Parents, I say this to you just so that you know that we have 2 count days during the school year, and our funding for our school district is based off of those count days. So there's one in the fall and one in the spring, and this coming Wednesday is one of those days. So your students' attendance on Wednesday all day is a great day for us as a school district. So that helps us with our finances and all the resources that we have to provide. So again, I think the elementaries are doing donut day on Wednesday to get all the elementary kids there. And I think the middle school and high school has some drawings throughout the day to incentivize attendance as well. Things like stuff from the school store, and maybe you get to cut the line at lunch day, so you get to skip everybody else and get your lunch a little bit quicker. So things like that to try to get the kids here on Wednesday and make sure everybody's here. So, and then last, don't forget, Friday is Valentine's Day. All right. That's my board update. Any questions? All right, so we do have a handful of public comments here. I think we should probably take that microphone and put it back to the podium so that our folks that would like to make public comment can do so at the podium. So I'll do that, and then you can call up our first speaker.
probably not going to say this name right, but Diela Bundle? Della. It's Della. Sorry about that. Yeah, oh, you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent, board members. Thank you for having me. My name is Della Bundle. I'm with the Social Justice Alliance of Cass County. Our chair, Gary Bundle, is also here. We come on behalf of the Pokagon Band citizens who believe that the chieftain mascot and associated iconography should be retired in defense of children who find it offensive. And so they are friends of ours in the community, and we just stand in alliance with them and would hope that the welfare of all children would be considered over any history and association with the chieftain logo and associated imagery. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Naomi Ludman.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Naomi Ludman. I live here in Dowagiac. I've lived here for quite a few years. My children and grandchildren attended school here. And I'm here to say, you know, I know that the issue of the chieftain logo and iconography is the word that Della used, is a very emotional one. I'm here to say that I think that we have a responsibility as a community and certainly as a school board to continue the discussions that have been started with the Pokagon tribe to discuss this matter and to review the research. This is more than just an emotional issue, you know, that some of you may have as people who went to school here and, you know, enjoyed being a chieftain. We have to be able to move beyond that. I want to say that I was extremely distressed. I think it was last year, I lose track of time, but when the members of the Pokagon tribe came and spoke to the board and asked to enter into discussions, and it was several months before we heard via the newspaper that the board had decided that there would be no change in the chieftain logo. This happened without any discussions with the tribe, even though they had requested to be heard and for the board to enter into discussions with them. You know, the tribe is a sovereign citizen in our community, sovereign government within our community. They're, you know, they are our friends, they're our neighbors, they're our relatives. They contribute economically and culturally to our community. And when they come and request that we enter into discussion and they present us with research, talk to us about how this affects their children, and I have to say it's not only their children, but it's our children, because we are perpetuating these negative images with, you know, non-Native children also. So I want to thank the board for having started this process, and I request and encourage that it go forward respectfully, and the tribe be given you know, the respect that it's due in terms of conversation about this very important issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. Next, we have Garrick Nostrum.
Hello, how are you all doing? Hope that's, here, I'm just gonna lean. I am Garrick Nastrom, a Dowagiac resident, also program director at the Out Center. I go to a lot of school board meetings, and so I just want to say I actually appreciate having the comments at the end because it makes everybody actually listen to what's happening in the school. That said, I don't love sitting through all the meetings, but I think it's actually really good and edifying to those who want to speak to also have to hear. And so I think that's great. Love that. I also would love to talk about your Title IX stuff later at some point. I'll reach out because there's also ELCRA to consider, which is the Michigan state law, which has a lot of overlap with the Title IX changes in 2024. But I'm here because I want to speak on behalf of the updates to the chieftain logo. At the end of the day, I think it's important to center the conversation around where is the harm. If there is a party who's being harmed, if there's a party who's communicating harm, and it's not harming anybody else to address it, then it should be addressed. You know, there's absolutely no harm in changing a logo and changing a mascot, especially when there are potential grants and funding mechanisms to do it for free. There's absolutely no harm to us as residents. And so I think it's important to understand that. And also, when you say you're honoring somebody, it's important to respect how they want to be honored. If you want to be called sir, if you want to be called ma'am, if you want to be called whatever, you know, someone should respect that, and they should respect how you want to be referred to, how you want to be talked about, and how you want to be represented in your community. You know, as someone, I unfortunately graduated from Lakeshore High School. I just had my 10-year anniversary, and the school is very different from when I went to school. The cafeteria is completely new. You know, I think a lot of y'all who went to Dowagiac schools, I imagine the school, if it's even the same buildings, look very, very different from when you went to high school. And that's okay. That's part of the evolution. Photos are great. You know, yearbooks are great to maintain the history. You know, as a white guy, I don't think you should walk around and feel shame because you graduated with a mascot that had a chieftain logo on it. But I think it's also important to recognize schools evolve, schools change. You know, they get new cafeterias, they get new auditoriums, they get new classrooms. Sometimes teachers get pay raises, inshallah. And I think it's important to remember that change is fine, and you don't have to feel shame because something was changed. You know, you can take pride in your local community and your local school, and what really matters is the people who are here and the kids that are here getting the best education they can possibly get here at Dowagiac schools. So thank you all for your consideration on this, and I hope the community can continue to rally behind these schools.
Thank you. Next we have Judy Winchester.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity for us to be heard today. I grew up in Sister Lakes all my life. I am a tribal citizen and have always been raised to be proud of who I was. And not only was I involved in my tribe, I grew up involved in my community. And my community, being Sister Lakes, was also Dowagiac. And I was always supportive of all of my efforts and extracurricular activities and everything. I never had people be negative to me as for who I was. And I think identity starts in here. And it is our own family's responsibility to teach us who we are and where we came from. And to respect one another no matter what race, color, creed you are. We are all equal. We all have something to offer. We all have our own inner strength and medicine to walk and do what we do in our lives. And I was on the tribal council back when civil rights was going to start dealing with the mascot issues. And the Dowagiac School Board and the superintendent, Larry Crandall, came to our tribal government and wanted to do what was politically correct because they respected our community as tribal people. And we were working on, you know, we only had one building at the time and stuff. And Dowagiac School took the whole entire cost of changing that mascot logo, whatever you want to call it. But Ron Mix, one of our own tribal artists, drew that we have, that is now in discussion. I was on tribal council, and I believe there's another tribal member that was on that council at the same time. And it was 100% supportive. We worked together. And then the school board, every year when packets came out at the beginning of the school year with the policies and stuff for the parents to read, it educated that the Dowagiac school system supported the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Indians, and it explained what had happened. And I appreciated and respected that. I played sports, I was in band, I was a majorette. My grandmother made the first original majorette headdresses, and I'm proud of that. My brother was an All Sports Award winner, and I was an All Sports Award winner too. And we were proud of who we were and what we are, and I still am today. I had served in 1990 was the first I got on our tribal council. I was in the past vice chair, treasurer, secretary, member at large, and our elders rep, and I currently am the elders council chair since 2019. I have talked to a few elders, and many are afraid to come out publicly and agree or disagree with our own individuals. We have our own staff at times that, I'm cut off? Okay, sorry. Well, thank you for the opportunity. Please get a hold of me if you have any questions. And we need to do what's right for the kids and educate everybody.
Thank you. Next, we have Julie Dye.
Bonjour, Quinoa, Julie Dye, Indigenous. I'm a taxpayer, resident of Dowagiac, Pokagon Band citizen. Just the fact alone that every few years, for the last 30 years, since that 1990 agreement was made, the school has had to deal with this issue. That should be an indication that something is wrong. Just to give you a little history on mascots in the United States, in the late 1800s, through the turn of the century and after the Indian Wars, over 3,000 schools across the country adopted native-themed sports mascots and names to memorialize the dying race. Non-native school administrators created chieftains, not the Potawatomi people. The Pokagon people had no voice. They were struggling to adapt with their land taken, their children being forced into boarding schools to be ethnically cleansed, and their culture, traditions, and family units being stripped away. Now, after 20 years of empirical research, 20 years of research, it's easy to find online, especially through educational institutions, colleges. They have a lot of the papers that are accessible. About the negative psychological impact that this poor education policy has not just on Native children, but all children. 9 states have banned Native-themed sports mascots in schools. The national trend is away from racial mascots, including colleges and pro sports. Imagine using another ethnicity's culture for the school's good luck charm. What would that look like, and how would it be received? Change is long overdue, and I understand nostalgia. I understand your childhood memories. Nobody's trying to take those away. Nobody's trying to take your cheerleading outfits or your athletic letters. But that's in the past. Our children and our grandchildren deserve better. I don't understand the phenomenon around Native mascots because my high school mascot was a tiger. And if the school came to me and said, hey, we're thinking about changing the mascot, I said, okay. You know, I wouldn't have a problem. I'm a road runner, graduated from SMC. If they wanted to change the mascot from a road runner, hey, if that's what the kids wanted, let them do it. So I don't quite understand this grasp in the ownership of this mascot that is our culture. Miigwech.
Thank you, Julie. Next, we have John Valdez.
Hi, my name is John Valdez. I was born in Dowagiac, raised in Dowagiac. I went to school system all my life. My mom and dad were born here. Our kids went through the school system their whole lives. Did sports, did all kinds of academic things in the school itself, and I object to changing the logo. I think the logo is great. I think it's good. We have several friends that are Potawatomi. We have several friends that are black. We have several Spanish friends. There's nothing wrong with the logo at all. In fact, the Potawatomis came up with a logo themselves, and I thought it was great. All the time we were going through school, we were proud of the logo. We thought Potawatomis and Pokagons, it was great. And I don't know what would be next. They're going to change the name of the town. It's a Potawatomi term. You know, you can go on and eliminate everything. And what are you going to go to next?
Thank you, John. Bill Lawrence.
I'm Bill Lawrence, and I'm a lifetime resident of Dowagiac, except for the period of time getting education and serving in the military. The request that's being made to the school board seems to me to have a very Florida DeSantis type of view to it. That schools can't touch on history. They can't touch, I guess, on the Civil War. They can't touch on slavery. They can't touch on the Trail of Tears, as it might make someone feel bad. Well, I don't think we turn our back on history and ignore history and not make history part of our community just because some individual might feel bad about it. I served on the school board here for 12 years after the agreement was made with the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Tribal Council, and the changes were made to the logo. I don't think we even have a mascot that I'm aware of, but we do use the logo in honor of the history of this area. And after that agreement, I never heard in 12 years of any one complaint by anybody. So I think this is a problem really that's being created rather than a problem that exists. And as John indicated, where does this end? The city of Dowagiac is a Native American, derived from a Native American name. Pokagon Township, of course, is named after the Pokagon Band. We have Pokagon Highway, we have Pokagon Street, we have the Dowagiac River, we have Topash Road. Where do we stop this cleansing, if you will, of everything that has any reference to our history? And I struggle to see the benefit or the point. And then, is it, as I understand it, the tribal council gets new members elected periodically. Excuse me? Time is up. And is there someone that would give me a couple of minutes of their time? Would the board allow that?
Come back next Monday.
Well, it seems that the proponents were given unlimited time and the responders are being given very limited time.
Don't try it.
Pardon me?
Don't try it, 'cause it's not true.
All right.
Public comment is 3 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Now we have Mike Winchester.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I'm going to give a little history. This is a council resolution that took place in 1989, and I'm going to read it. The Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Indians desire that a positive and accurate image of its members be portrayed in the logos, mascots, nicknames, and other images used by the Dowagiac Union High School District, and the tribe, having learned that the DUHS District also is concerned that it portray and use its logo and nickname in a manner befitting the tribe. Therefore, the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Indians resolves that DUHS District may continue to use the name Chieftains for athletic teams and other purposes as part of the school's district commitment to create positive mascots, logos, and policies in its athletic and educational activities. Therefore, resolved on this 14th day of October 1989 by unanimous vote of the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Indian Tribal Council. That was signed by Joseph Winchester, Tribal Secretary, Judy's father. So that was a commitment made by both parties. Then they had a joint resolution. There were 10 key points in that resolution. Keep the chieftain name. But that isn't where it ended. They also had 3 more key points to teach the history and culture, infuse into the curriculum the Pokagon history, and use tribal speakers to do that. This is what was agreed upon by the Pokagon Band and the school board. It is pretty clear that that took place because this is the agreement, and the other one was the resolution. Tribal Council signed by Daniel Rapp, 3/10/1990, and it was signed by the Dowagiac Union High School 3/23/1990. It's pretty clear that all that took place. One of the agreements was to redo the image, and they asked Clarence White to sit, to be painted by a tribal artist, and that was agreed upon by both parties. In closing, I would say back in 1990, we were fortunate to have 2 men whose ideas were meant to strengthen the relationship between the Pokagon Band and the Dowagiac school system. The Pokagons have long been a people who comes to the table to negotiate, and back in 1833, it was for our lives for us to stay here. I think the tribal leaders who are in office right now need to take a look back at the leadership then who kept us here in our homeland. Aho.
Thank you, Mike. That concludes our hearing of citizens. Unfortunately, we have to have a sheet filled out before you can speak.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Okay, yeah. We have I was going to let everyone here know, since we've got an audience tonight. Next Monday, we have a school board meeting in the auditorium next door, 6 o'clock. You can all come talk again or listen, and be nice to see some faces there.
So not tonight.
What's that? Yeah, and when you enter, we have a form that you would need to turn in. We've got some blank ones if you want to come Monday.
Okay, so not tonight.
No, not tonight, unfortunately. Sorry about that.
Simple yes or no.
Yeah. Yep. But Monday you can, 6 o'clock. We'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. This is a pretty hot topic to get this many people here. So we haven't had anybody show up at a workshop, and now we've got you all here. So maybe we'll see you next Monday. There'll be more discussion on this topic, and we're going to adjourn. Thank you.